And I will be sending a letter to the Department of Justice asking for a criminal referral because he has lied to Congress. We have scientists that will line up by the dozens to say that the research he was funding was gain of function. He's doing this because he has a self-interest to cover his tracks and to cover his connection to Wuhan lab.
That's Kentucky Senator Rand Paul threatening to send the Justice Department a criminal referral against Dr. Anthony Fauci during a heated exchange between the two on Capitol Hill yesterday. The Republican senator pressing Fauci about the origins of COVID and funding of the Wuhan laboratory in China. But the White House chief medical advisor, is standing firm, denying any wrongdoing. You just have to see it. Watch.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain-of-function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about.
They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain-of-function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world.
You are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individuals. I totally resent that. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
Trey Gowdy.
Well, Harris, I have said oftentimes before, one of the greatest casualties of this pandemic has been medicine and science. I mean, we live in a world where we are desperate for something to rise above the political den, something we can trust and believe in. And it used to be medicine. Look, I don't know Dr. Fauci. I know Rand a little bit. They're both medical doctors. I know it makes for great TV to have this conversation in 5-minute increments on television. But why don't you meet with one another? Why don't you just go, no cameras, you both are MDs, go sit down. I don't have a friend that understands gain of function. I don't know a single person that knows the difference between RNA and DNA vaccines. Maybe you and I have different friends, maybe my friends are just not that smart, but we don't talk about that. What we talk about is how do we survive this looming coming season of disquiet that is coming back. And it'd be great if we could rely on medicine. So look, Rand, Dr. Fauci, go talk about this in private first. That's what the Bible says to do. That'd be a pretty good idea for both of y'all.
Yes, it does. Morgan.
Well, I think it's important to have this discussion. And Josh Rogan from the Washington Post, also a CNN contributor, tweeted out last night, and he was right. He said that that the NIH was funding gain-of-function research at this lab. But what the NIH reportedly did, according to this Washington Post columnist, is they didn't classify it as gain-of-function research, because by not classifying it, then they got away from having the oversight mechanism that the NIH requires if you are funding it. So why does that matter? Number one, it matters because if they are funding gain-of-function research in these labs or anywhere around the world, where I think it's proven they were, and they're not declaring it in order to get around an oversight mechanism, it's important that they, number one, that they stop doing it. It's also secondly important to know why do we have this oversight in place? Could we, if we had proper oversight of the gain-of-function research going on in this lab, would we have been able to better understand the origins of COVID, which no one knows, and we do not know if it came from this lab, but signs are pointing to there. And finally, I would just say, to back up Trey, you know, there is one entity that's responsible for all of this, and it's not Fauci. It's the Chinese Communist Party. And we need to continue to make sure, no matter what we're arguing about in the United States, that our efforts are focused on getting the Chinese Communist Party to be accountable for the origins of COVID.
There you go. All right, we do want to get to this. And Trey, you had brought up the COVID vaccine. Republican Congressman Steve Scalise is talking about why he, in fact, finally chose, because he was waiting, he said, he was delaying. He finally chose to get the COVID vaccination now. Watch.
Months ago, I had tested for the antibodies, and so I would imagine maybe a year ago, early off, I might have gotten COVID, but didn't really have any symptoms, but had the antibodies. But ultimately, with this new Delta variant, you're seeing, I've toured a lot of hospitals in the last few weeks, and you're seeing the cases go up. It's not to the alarming level that we saw last year by any stretch. You do see about 95% 95 to 98% of people in the hospital for COVID are people that aren't vaccinated. And I just, I was ready to get the vaccine. I've always felt it was safe and effective. I applaud what President Trump did with Operation Warp Speed to bring multiple vaccines to the market in the quickest time ever. But it's not because they cut corners. They tested it on thousands of people before ultimately you got that FDA conditional use approval. So it's safe and effective. I took it, and I wanted to show the picture to just encourage people.
While we discuss this, and Kaylee, I want to get your top line thoughts on this, because you were just saying much of what he's saying yesterday. I mean, but look, this is Congressman Scalise on Sunday getting his first COVID shot. He says he's getting a 2-shot series, so he'll be back in 21 or 28 days, depending on which one he got, Pfizer or Moderna, respectively.
That's right, and like Congressman Steve Scalise, I had COVID-19. Even though I was asymptomatic, I went and got the vaccine for a few reasons. Well, first, let me say, as I mentioned yesterday, I saw President Trump oversee this process. He appointed Dr. Stephen Hahn at the FDA, who approved this vaccine. He appointed Robert Redfield at the CDC. I got the vaccine because, one, could keep you from getting a variant. Number two, even if you get a variant, you're 95% less likely to be hospitalized. Our elderly, our most vulnerable.
Scalise says it's higher than that from what he's seeing in hospitals.
Higher than that. And even more important than any of that is it reduces your risk of transmitting the virus. So if you have a grandmother or a grandfather or a parent, do it for them, if not for yourself, even if you're a young person.
So when you talk to people, and I want to know where people are. I want to meet them right where we are, right? Dr. Siegel and I talk about this all the time, because I'm not a doctor. As Trey said, we're not all epidemiologists, breaking down our mRNA and DNA. But at the baseline point, we want to understand what's right for us, right? I am so confused about the messaging coming out of this White House. Why can't they simply say that what those people on that plane going from Texas to D.C. did was wrong? They were flouting federal regulations for being in the air. No matter what their vaccination status, the rest of us wear a mask, whether we love that process or not. That's how it is. Why can't the White House simply say, you know what, our next proving ground is not going to be at your front door. It's going to be at the front door of the FDA. We're going to go get them and tell them to give full approval. Scientifically, can they get there from this emergency use authorization? I would say 80% of the people I talk to who have waited, like Scalise did for a period of time, that's their issue. They're like, well, why don't they mainstream it like every other drug? I mean, if you read the back of the bottle of an anti-inflammatory, there are a lot of indicators for why you might want to choose a different drug. Why can't the FDA look at this? Why isn't the White House pressuring that point?
That's such a great point, absolutely, and that's a lot of people who have hesitation. They've pointed out, why isn't the FDA, why haven't they approved it yet if this administration is on board? It only serves to ignite more questions in the American people, especially when that mixed messaging from this administration trickles down, for example, to the state and local level, like in LA County, where in complete contrast to the message of vaccine efficacy, they're still demanding people wear masks indoors and outdoors, et cetera, especially to combat what they call the pandemic of unvaccination. I think that's why Steve Scalise, for example, is such a wonderful ambassador to this. At least he is sending a clear message about the vaccine's efficacy. Remember as well, we talked about, the flood of migrants on the border. Just 38 people in the entire country of Haiti have been vaccinated. So the fact that in this country, they are prevalent, available, and free, I hope that more people take advantage of that with hopefully a clear messaging going forward.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.